Hi everyone, this is Dan and we're going to start a new series looking at correcting ankle dysfunction. Okay, so ankle dysfunction, that's going to be anyone who has flat feet. So if there's any of you out there who have this position going on where your feet start to collapse inward or your feet start to turn outwards, you'll see this arch on the inside. We'll start to lose that when we do movement, or we're just in that position in general. When we do a squat, we start to lose that arch and the feet start to turn out. And the other thing you might see is if you're doing a squat and you'll have like a forward lean, so your trunk will start to lean forward over your lower leg. So your lower leg and your trunk aren't parallel anymore when you're squatting down. They should sit parallel to one another. So a lot of times this is driven by calf tightness. So we're going to be looking at correcting that. So we're going to be looking at trying to get more flexibility back in the calf. Sometimes we also get dysfunction within the ankle joint itself. So I'm going to show you some techniques that are going to help to optimize that. Okay, and we're going to help to realign the ankle joint, get some strength back in some of the muscles that have become weaker, and hopefully realign the foot position so we can bring the arches back in the foot. So we get this arch to return here, so we come out of this position back to here, and also to help keep the feet straight, keep the knee tracking over the second and third toe. This will also inadvertently help anyone who's had any knee pain, that could well be driven from the ankle joint, unless there's direct trauma to the knee. Knee pain is usually a result of ankle or hip or both dysfunction, but we're going to be looking at the ankle first of all. Okay, so a few things you're going to need for this series. The first part of this series, we're going to be looking at just the release techniques. So release techniques, we're going to look at the muscles that have become short, have become what we call overactive. So they have too much, the body's using them too much. That's probably the easiest way I could say them. They're being overused, over-recruited at the expense of other muscles. So these muscles are the ones that we need to really calm down. We're going to use some techniques that will get the body to relax these, so the body doesn't go in and try to use them as often or as much as it has been. And that's typically the calf muscles. So most people have very tight calves. They probably experienced that. They notice that as well, especially a lot of runners. So we're going to look at some techniques that are going to really calm the calf muscles down. And what we're going to need, so a few bits of equipment for this whole series. You don't need much stuff. First of all, you're going to need a foam roller as well. You can get these online for roughly about 10 to 15 pounds. This is just a pretty basic one. This isn't branded as far as I know. I've got no affiliations to any brands. I've just got some all different branded ones here. It doesn't really matter. They're all pretty much the same. You can get some that are better. They've got different grids on, which have different textures, different densities. They're really cool, but there's nothing special about a foam roller. I think as long as you've got one that's fairly dense, then you're pretty good. So we need a foam roller. You can get massage balls as well. The smaller the surface area, the more pressure there is. So I've got a larger ball here, which is great for getting into certain areas. A smaller ball, again, if we need more pressure, we can use this. If you're a beginner, I'd start with the foam roller. It's less pressure. If we go in too much too quickly with some of these points that we're going to be looking for when we do the release techniques, it can get really uncomfortable. So we're not looking to cause pain when we do these release techniques. They should feel just mildly uncomfortable. So you could start with a foam roller, and then you could progress onto the ball, and then maybe even the smaller ball. But we're mainly going to be using the foam roller for this video, but we'll use this too. Other tools you'll need, not for this first part, but you can get is, I've got these little fit loops you can get. These are real cheap. You can get a pack of these online for anywhere from £5 to £10. They come in different colours and different strengths. So we're going to be using them. They're real good. And we've got these bigger, thick resistance bands as well. These do vary in price. The thicker you go, the more expensive they are. I think they go anywhere from kind of £5 to £20. The red and the black one, I think the red ones are about £8, and these are about £13, but they last forever. You can do an awful lot with them, as you'll be seeing in the series. So that's our equipment. We don't really need much. The other thing you'll probably need is just a chair, something that you can put your foot up on, or just a surface that's at least about 12 inches high. And that's pretty much all we're going to need. So for our first release techniques, and with the release techniques, what we're doing, we're going to go through, look after the muscles that have become really short, that have become overactive, that are just working too much. And like I said before, this is going to be the calf muscles, so our gastroc, our soleus, also our fibularis muscle, which runs up here. These ones will stop us from bringing our foot upwards, and also it'll cause our feet to flatten out, so we'll lose that arch that I was talking about before. So that has a big role and function. Whenever we run, or we walk or we run, we need to be able to have optimal dorsiflexion. What that does, that helps to dissipate forces coming back up through the ground, through the body. If we don't have any control, if we went running, for example, and we just kept slapping the ground, we didn't land on the hill, then there's going to be a lot of force coming through the body, up through the knee, up into the hip, and that could cause problems, that could cause pain. Another thing as well, again, if we're squatting, like I said before, we want to be able to keep ourselves upright. What you'll see, if the calves are real tight, we're end up going into this forward leaning position, because where the calves are so stiff, they won't let the knees translate over the toes. You'll also see feet turning out, feet flattening, which is all compensation. They're the things that we want to get rid of. So again, that could also lead to knee and potentially hip pain and low back pain. So these are definitely important that we want to do. So with the release techniques, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you with the, just for ease, I'm going to show you with the foam roller. We're just looking for little tender spots that we call trigger points. And what trigger points are? They're little areas of neuromuscular hyperactivity. So also little points where the muscles become short. So we're going to look through, we're going to search through the muscle. So we're going to make sure that we're nice and stable. Legs on top of the roller. I'm going to start just around where the Achilles is, and I'm going to roll to just below my knees. So I'm going to roll all the way through, and I'm going to come back again. I'm going to come back a little bit more so you guys can see. So again, I'm just going to roll through, and all I'm doing, I'm not just rolling back and forth continuously. I'm just going to roll through until I find a tender spot. And then once I've found a tender spot, once I've found something that feels a little bit irritable, I'm not looking for anything that's really painful. It should just feel mildly uncomfortable. Looking for that point in the muscle, and I've got one right there. So I've got a tender little spot right in my calf right there. All I'm going to do is make sure I've got enough tension on it. So I don't want too little, I don't want too much. It's just, like I said before, it should just feel mild. If I need more pressure, I could just pop my other leg on top, which I was already doing. And I can feel a tender spot there. It's not terribly uncomfortable. I can manage that. And I'm just going to sit there, I'm just going to wait. And it normally takes anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And there's a process that will happen called autogenic inhibition. I won't go into the details of it, but what I will do, I'm just overriding the tension in the muscle there. I'm getting a reflex response, and that will start to calm down that trigger point, that tender spot in the muscle. And in that 30 seconds to 2 minutes, you should feel like a feeling of release. These are known as myofascial release techniques. But yeah, that you'll feel like it's like the tension is going away, and I can feel that that's actually gone now. I can't really feel that point anymore. And that's what we're looking for. We're just looking for a tender spot. You're going to roll through. You're not going to roll through back and forth continuously. That's not going to do anything. If anything, it might make matters worse. We're just going to look through. You're only rolling through to find a tender spot. We locate it. Make sure we just got mild pressure. We're going to hold it 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And in that time, it should dissipate. It should go away. I don't want too much pressure if it's really, really painful. I'm just going to contract my, I'd end up just contracting my calf to guard against the pain, and I'll never get a release that way. So just be real careful when you're doing it. And that's it, that's as simple as that. That's all we're going to do. That's our calf done. You may feel several points in there. I would just go for the one that feels worse, just because, again, if you're doing this before, as a warm-up, which we should be doing before we do before we go in to do like our gym workout or a home workout, we don't always have a lot of time, so we can end up doing this for a long time. So just find the worst point. The other muscle we're going to do is we're going to go down the side of the calf. So we're looking for the fibularis muscle, which is a long stringy muscle. If you feel your kneecap just kind of roll to the outside, and you'll feel a bony bump right here, okay, just below, just a few inches round to the side and just an inch or two below the knee, and that's the fibular head. Okay, so just that's the bone that runs down the side of the lower leg, and that's where our fibularis attaches to. So you'll feel a big bony bump, and just below it, it should get mushy. So you should feel some fibres if you kind of strum back and forth. That's your fibularis. And all we do, we're just going to roll on the side. And again, I'm going to start just below that fibular head, that bony bump we just spoke about. And I'm just going to roll myself back to just above my ankle and back. And again, I'm just looking, just searching for a tender spot. And I've got one right there. I'll put the pictures of where the main trigger points are in the video, in the pictures, if you can see them. And again, I've got my point, I'll do the same thing. I'll just wait. Just got to make sure it's not too tender. It's not too painful, it's just, it's mild, I can manage it, it's good. I'm just going to wait there, wait for it to go away. And like I said, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And then we're done. And I can actually start to already feel that one melting away. There is a couple of points here. There's normally one, like I said, just below that fibular head. There's also one about halfway. If you guys do have a bit more time, sure, go for multiple points. But if you've only got an hour in the gym, you want to try and spend no more than a minute really on each of these. Try and get through them in fairly quick succession. We don't want to be hanging around too much if we've got lots of things to do. And again, I can feel a release there. So that's our calf muscle release. We did the gastroc, the soleus and gastroc first of all, then we did the fibularis. You could also use, if you did want more pressure, we could put the foam roller to the side. If you felt like that wasn't doing it anymore, if you had a 2 or 3 weeks of doing that and you didn't really feel like it was getting in very deep, if you feel like you couldn't really find any points, it's worth looking in and getting a smaller surface. You could just use a tennis ball, that works fine. I'm going to use this ball, and again, I'll just roll through again. And again, I'm just going to look for another tender spot. So that might be a good thing for you guys to progress on to. Start with a roller and then move on and try out the balls. Okay, so the next techniques we're going to do, these are a bit of a progression from the static release techniques. They were the two that we just did. These are active release techniques, so these are a little bit different. Underneath, so above your muscles, you've got a fascial layer, like a connective tissue sheath that your muscles invest into. That can get bound down. There's many layers of fascia that kind of run over each other. They need to be able to kind of slide on top of each other if we want optimal flexibility. So if someone had normal flexibility, there'd be good movement between those layers of fascia, those layers of connective tissue that your muscles go into. But what often happens if muscle gets restricted, there's less shear between those layers of fascia. They kind of get bound down and kind of stuck together almost. So what we can do, we've got a technique that we can do to try and unbind those fascial layers, and that's active release technique. So what we do, you can use this if you're quite sensitive initially. I probably would say use a more denser foam roller. You could use a dumbbell handle, though that is quite aggressive, but just something that's a bit more dense, maybe a smaller surface area for these techniques. So all you're going to do is pretty much the same thing. You're going to find your trigger point, So I've got a trigger point right there. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to put the roller just below that point. So I've just rolled that a little bit further, only ever so slightly. I'm talking millimeters here, just below it. So I'm just kind of touching that point. My point's just above the foam roller there. So I've put the foam roller just kind of underneath, just past that point. And then all I'm going to do, again, you're going to need a broad surface for this, so the balls wouldn't really work. So once I'm there, I've got that point locked in, I'm just going to pull my foot up. And what that's going to do, that's actually going to pull, as I'm pulling up, I'm stretching my calf. And that's going to, because I'm pulling up this way, I'm pulling that trigger point, that adhesion through the foam roller. So that point of fascial restriction, where the trigger point is, the fascia around it will have got bound down and tight in that particular point. What I'm doing is I'm pulling up. I'm just kind of pulling. I'm kind of shearing that trigger point, that adhesion through the foam roller, and that's going to hopefully unbind that site, so the layers of fascia can kind of move on top of each other easier. We're just kind of unbinding it. So again, I'm just going to pull my foot up. I'm going to hold it for 2 or 3 seconds, and then I can release again. Again, I'm going to come back up, and you should feel it intensify as you pull up. These are a bit more aggressive. Again, we're not looking for pain. That doesn't mean it should be really painful. It should be mildly uncomfortable. So again, I'm pulling up. I'm going to hold 1, 2, 3. I let it go. I pull up. I hold it. 1, 2, 3. I let it go. And I can do that 10 to 15 times, or until I feel like I can move my foot freely upwards. Come back again, and even just after a few, I feel like I can just pull my foot up that little bit higher. And again, you should feel that trigger point start to wear away. Like I said, it doesn't really work well on the ball so much. It doesn't really work very well on the fibularis either. You could try it. I find that it works really well on the calf. Again, you need a nice broad surface for that one. But these are a progression, so start with your release techniques. Maybe try them for 3 or 4 weeks, progress through the roller, the balls, and then maybe move on to the active techniques and give those a try.